Wow, welcome into the inaugural episode of Daved by the Bell. I am your host, Devin Dave DeBoer, and I can't say that I'm not excited to be doing this show. I've got Nick Wallstra, say hello,
Hey.
and Luke Zalstra
Yeah, I'm here.
sitting in on this first episode. They're not always going to be stalwarts in this series, but I'm excited to have them here just to give a little bit of support as we go through this first episode. I'm sure you've already noticed, because all of you are listening to this show, that we have numerous programs now on the New York Neens Basketball Network. We've got the Dedunked podcast. That's our central main event, I guess you could call it. That's the big guns on this channel. Then you've got Lukewarm Takes, hosted by yours truly.
Me, actually.
There you go. Sorry, yours truly. And I apologize. I was pointing at Luke, and I realized that this is a podcast, though. And then I think we got other shows coming up, right? Maybe college
We'll plan
basketball.
one or two, maybe. Yeah, we got a few tricks up our sleeve.
Few tricks up our sleeve. Yeah, we're looking to up our risk factor here and
You know what, Dave?
make some noise.
You call it the New York Neens Basketball Network, but we're actually expanding to some baseball, too, on me and Nick's podcast, so you might even want to just call it New York Neens Podcast.
I'm sorry, we don't talk about sin on this network. All right.
Small, little college football
Anyway,
in there.
I'm just gonna quick run through the show here. Basically, it's me just talking about basketball, primarily Rockets, because that's my show, right? That's my main event. But actually, the first topic of the show is gonna be about my favorite player on my least favorite team, and that's Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics.
Oh, no.
Wow. Okay. Jason Tatum, I did not like before this draft. I didn't think that he was all that good even. I mean, you can be good in college basketball, but your game doesn't translate to the league. You know, we've seen that so many times in the past. And I thought that Jason Tatum, I think we talked about it before on a possible show that probably was never uploaded even back in the past. But I didn't think that his game was going to translate to the NBA well. And now, granted, I've only seen him in Summer League, but I have fallen in love with now my favorite Tatum, ranked just above Channing Tatum.
Yeah, me and Nick were just
Which is
talking-
my second favorite Channing
Thank you.
behind Channing
Okay,
Frye.
Me and Nick were just talking about college versus the NBA, and how they're two different games and how you have to
Right.
appreciate them separately. So
Right.
right on your point there.
Yeah. To me, I can't tell if he's more young Paul Pierce or young Kobe Bryant.
Let's take it easy there.
No. I'm not saying he's going to be nearly as good as either of them.
I understand.
But I feel like his game very much models that small forward game, that shooting guard game of the mid-2000s. Loves the mid-range. Doesn't really care about defense, but he'll give it a go every time he's on the other side of the floor. Has never passed in his life. I actually have watched almost every Boston Summer League game, and I don't know if the ball has left his hands in any form other than going towards the hoop. Surprisingly, though, he's been a really competent rebounder, was something that I wasn't expecting. And I can't quite remember who brought this up. It might have been, I think it was Bill Simmons in his latest mailbag episode, where he likened Jason Tatum to the great Paul Pierce. But he said he was really impressed because he thought that even in the 4 months since he got, he finished his college basketball career and now was drafted is in Summer League, he's improved a lot just from going from college to the pros. Now, like I said, it's Summer League. It doesn't translate very much to the real league. There's players like that Larry Caruso or like Drew Caruso, whatever his name is, on the Lakers. He's already balding and looks like my father, honestly.
I mean,
He's in his early 20s.
What do we just say? The Bulls did win Summer League championship last year.
Also, who's on your team this year?
Exactly.
Cameron Payne?
You can't exactly trust in the
Yeah.
Summer League.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's fun to watch the rookies, that's for sure.
But Jason Tatum went from being like my most hated rookie, saying, I can't believe they took him at number 3 over Josh Jackson, over Dennis Smith and Jr., to now I'm like, Markelle Fultz went ahead of Jason Tatum? No, I'm kidding. But I'm really excited about Jason Tatum's future. Another future that I'm excited about is the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, obviously, they have had a rough past like 4 seasons with a legacy Kobe contract, the farewell tour, basically tanking on accident at first and then eventually just embracing the tank. You've got Brandon Ingram, really exciting prospect. I think obviously he's still going to take time. People likened him to Kevin Durant when he came in the league, but then Kevin Durant in his rookie season for the Sonics averaged 20 points. Brandon Ingram, I don't remember how much he averaged in his freshman year, his inaugural campaign, but he he disappointed, right? He made rookie second team as the number 2 pick. That's not something that was, it's a success for sure out of the 60 players that were drafted. But, everyone was kind of disappointed by his lack of shooting, his lack of really everything, his lack of size. But Summer League has really shown, he's really gotten that shot back on. And like I said, I'm going to keep saying it every single time I talk about Summer League. But it's Summer League, so I understand that there's differences. But, you can't really, a shot's a shot. And his shooting stroke has really improved from last year to this year, it seems. I'm excited to see him in his second year. But other than Brandon Ingram, you've got Lonzo Ball, the number 2 pick, who, if it wasn't for his father, would he have been like the number 3, number 4, number 5 pick? He might. Yeah, he spoke it into existence. Thank you, Luke. I know he hasn't looked so good in Summer League, but this is his first shot at really,
But it's Summer League.
Thanks, Nick. This is really his first shot at running an NBA offense. I think it's something that's going to take time. UCLA had a really intricate offense for college offense last year, but it's going to take time for him to really develop a game that translates well to the major league. Because you like that, a little baseball for you. I'm trying.
I'm trying.
I don't know who Mike Trout is, but I know he's in the league of baseball. So there you go.
What?
Very well said.
I'm excited to watch him in the future. I really think that his game, once he finds a way to translate his old college game to the league, I think it's going to be something that I'm not going to be able to stop watching. I'm going to be on League Pass every single night watching LA. He's got a very bright future. D'Angelo Russell, RIP. I think I like the trade, though. What was it? It was D'Angelo Russell in the 27th pick. No, it was D'Angelo Russell and Mozgov for the 27th pick and Lopez. Lopez seems like the kind of guy, obviously he's an injury-prone guy. He's got feet problems, and for a big guy, that's not exactly exciting. That's not something that you can really look over. But I like the idea of Lopez after his contract expires the next year, coming back again for another year, another contract, 2, 3, 4 years, at 15 to 20, maybe 15 to 17 probably per year. I think that's a good contract size for him, and that's a good vet who's productive, and he's a really good player in the league, top 50 probably, and I think that he can really help LA as they work themselves back up from the dumpster fire that they were to hopefully championship contender. Now here's where the big guns come in.
Oh no.
Ever heard of a LeBron, Michael, Jeffrey, Jordan, James? You like that?
I'm actually speechless.
Okay.
Which does not happen often. Have you heard of
LeBron's a free agent next year. Everyone says he's going to LA. I don't really buy it, but I like the upside there. I like the. I'm not going to beat the over on that one. I think he's going to sign with Cleveland again. But I think that's a really exciting plot line to watch this year. Is watch LA develop, watch all these young guys play together, get more talented, really figure out their chemistry, and then the possibility of next year adding Russell Westbrook, an LA guy who's going to be a free agent. That's another one I'm not really buying into. LeBron James, not really buying into that one either. But the LA, the business connections, the market, everyone has talked about it, so I figured I should bring it up. And then also the big gun, Paul George of the number 13 fame. Also, clearly he says he's very committed to getting to LA. Now, we've also heard recently what he said, if I'm winning in OKC, I'd like to stay in OKC because it would be dumb for me to leave. But I still think it's more than likely he's going to LA next year. And I just wanted to talk about the pieces that are in place here. Maybe not even just like dissecting the future of this team, this franchise. But look at the pieces that they have in play here. They've got Lonzo Ball, Brooke Lopez, Brandon Ingram, more than likely Paul George. I mean, that's already a playoff team. Luke has just shown me a picture.
So I'm just going to butt in like I do. There is a long history of NBA players being seduced by the LA Lakers in free agency.
Yep, absolutely.
And if you want to list off some of those names, this is a great picture I found on Instagram. Shout out to NBA Legends Only, one of my favorite Instagram accounts. We want to list off some of those guys. These are all guys that left in free agency for the Lakers.
Kareem, who left the Bucks. We've got
Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah, Wilt, who left the Warriors, I believe.
Yeah, or the Sixers, or when they were at the time.
Well, it was the Warriors in Philadelphia, and then and then San Francisco. Yep,
Shaquille
O'Neal.
Alone, those are three of the best 4 or 5 big men ever.
Yep, exactly. Powell, Karl Malone. I mean,
is Gary Payton?
Gary Payton, but I mean,
he wasn't good then.
He was kind of washed by the time he made it there. But like, LA's it's that kind of market, right?
Steve
Just like
Nash,
New York,
Dwight Howard.
in theory. Yes, Nash and Howard were in that picture. Thank you.
Basically, you can't count out the Lakers' free agency factor. Just to kind of add to your point.
I think there's a big case to be made though. Markets have really shifted in the last 5 years.
Certainly.
Because San Francisco, the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, the Warriors is what I'm alluding to, is a much more intriguing market to a lot of people who have business prospects, especially in the NBA, than what did you just pull out of the ground? The cable? All right. I think San Francisco is kind of becoming the new Los Angeles in that way for the NBA, and I think the Lakers are kind of losing their shine in that way. But let's not forget that the Lakers still have that history the way that Boston does, with all-time great players. Look at Gordon Hayward, seemingly seduced by the same thing. But yeah, I just wanted to brush over quickly the LA aspect as I get onto my more exciting topics here. I really think the Lakers have a bright future because they set themselves up to failure so bad with that Kobe Bryant legacy contract. But moving on from there, we got to have some real talk, all right? There's so many people who hate on DeMar Carroll in this league. They say, I know this is a really oddball topic, but it's something that I really wanted to bring up. They say DeMar Carroll's washed. He can't play anymore. He got injured. I'm not going to lie. He's pretty washed. He's still injured. He's an injury risk. He only played 26 games in the 15-16 season. But I don't want people this... I hate this narrative that, oh man, Brooklyn should have gotten more out of Toronto. They should have gotten a second first-round pick out of them when they traded for DeMar Carroll, because that's such a huge contract for such a trash player, such a washed player. He really was just... He wasn't worth going into the tax for in Toronto. Now, that I'll accept. That I agree with, is they're not competing against the Cavs anymore. I think they've realized that they're not going to make it against the Cavs until LeBron somehow disappears off the face of the earth. I mean, they know they're not breaking through the East of the Finals. So I understand the reason why they would get rid of DeMar Carroll. Like, oh, he's a very expensive contract. We have to get out of the tax. There's no reason in paying the luxury tax in this league if we're not going to be competing for a championship. I buy into that. That's fine. But this narrative that DeMar Carroll isn't a good player anymore, or he's a starting caliber player, but he's not an upper tier player, I'm not buying into one bit. Yes, he's an injury risk, like I said. But looking at his 14-15 campaign, that's when he was an all-star in Atlanta. Okay? Let me look at these stats here. He's got 11 points. He's got 0.2 blocks, almost 2 steals, an assist, 5 rebounds. His effective field goal percentage was 58%. His 2-point percentage. Oh, just lost it. Oh, here we go. 57% on 5 attempts a game. 3-point percentage, 39.5 on 4.3 attempts, so that's connecting on 1.7 attempts per game. That's really good for a rotation, like a good quality starting, lower end all-star, because it was the Eastern Conference, let's be real. But that's a good campaign.
I'm with you here. To interject as I'm becoming very good.
I love it when you interrupt.
DeMar Carroll is 2 years removed from being an All-Star.
Yeah, he had a really bad season in 15-16. He only played 26 games. But then, like you're saying, let's move on to 16-17.
I'm not.
All right?
I'm not giving up on him yet.
In 14-15, he played in 70 games, started 69. In 16-17, he played 72 games. He started 72 games. Now I realize there's a talent gap, so maybe he had to start because there wasn't as much talent. I understand all that. But his minutes played goes down 5 minutes from then due to these injuries. Still puts up 9 points per game in 5 less minutes, so that's 2 less points. So that's proportional, I would say, for a player like him. Less turnovers, like I said, less minutes. More blocks, doubles his blocks from 0.2 to 0.4.
Oh man. Don't sleep on Murray's blocks.
Yeah, don't sleep on his defensive abilities. Yeah, I know. Less steals by 0.2. So basically the same amount of steals.
This is a guy who can contribute on a quality team.
Exactly. The
Cavs would kill for DeMar Carroll right now.
Right?
I mean, he's better than Derek Williams.
His rebounding goes down by 1.5 from 5.5 to 3 or to 4. Offensive rebounding goes down. All that. His free throw percentage went up by 6%. His effective field goal percentage went down by 8%. That's sad. Now, his shooting got worse. I'm not going to lie about that, right? His percentages are down. But also, I think something that's important to realize here is his attempts are actually up. So I think that's important. Like, when you're looking at something like that, you have to look at proportion. Yes, his 3-point percentage, his 2-point percentage, all that did go down some, but also all of his attempts arose by at least a half to one, depending on where he's on the floor. I'm just looking at the chart here. So I don't like this idea that this guy's washed. Like, yeah, he's not as good defensively anymore because of his knee problems and everything, but he's worth so much more than what they gave him up for. I mean, now I realize they gave him up because they didn't want to have him on the books for the tax. But this idea that he's stranded in Brooklyn as just another washed-up player, I just don't like. And I had to get that out of the way because I really liked DeMar Carroll, really like his game, and I think it's unfair that people are sleeping on him because I think he's still a very capable contributor in the league, even on his contract.
I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't expect this much DeMar Carroll talk in the first episode of Dave.
Neither did I.
But it's a good point, and you look at the top teams in the league.
He was a Rocket at one point. He played 5 games as the Houston Rockets, so there you go.
Homerism. It's not really your home, but your favorite team. Yeah, I definitely get it. I mean, look at the top few teams in the league. Golden State, he would not play on, but Cleveland could definitely use him. San Antonio would definitely like to have him.
Right, and over Rudy Gay for sure. Rudy Gay's coming off a torn Achilles.
Yeah, the Celtics have too many small forwards already. Would your Rockets want? You have a lot of wings. I mean, he's definitely.
I'm not worried about it. I'd take him off the bench.
The Raptors just didn't use him last year. The Wizards would like to have him. There are plenty of quality teams.
Yeah.
OKC would love him.
Yep.
There are plenty of quality teams that would like a player like him. And while the contract is obviously a problem, I agree with you. If he were to get bought out, for example, which he's not going to, I'm saying, but if you were to give him that clean slate of sorts that a buyout give the player, he would have the man.
I think he's a fine starting player, an average starting player. Okay. Maybe not an all-star anymore, but people have to realize that.
All you DeMar Carroll haters, Dave just totally destroyed your whole argument. So
yeah, I just don't like hearing it. All right,
all 15.
Now we're moving on to the main event. Can I get like a little clap or a drum roll or something just unofficial? No, okay, we're just gonna move on then.
Drum roll.
We're gonna move on to the Houston Rockets.
Oh no, I want to
This is my favorite NBA team. And I think I'm getting a drum roll here.
You got a drum.
That was
Houston Rockets.
So dumb. We're gonna talk about.
I got a guitar.
We're gonna talk about the point guard, Chris Paul.
Wait, Cameron Payne? Oh, Chris Paul. Oh, okay, my bad.
Cameron Payne, point guard. Yes. No, we're talking about Chris Paul, and I'm gonna address this problem with. Good night, Nick.
See ya.
I'm going to discuss this problem with the media that says they don't think, James Harden and Chris Paul cannot coexist on the same team. They're ball dominant. They shoot too much. They like to run the offense their own way. One is all about pace and space. The other one is about slowing it down and dissecting an offense. It's too conflicting. They can't do it. And James Harden's personality will conflict with the militaristic style that Chris Paul likes to run his teams on. Well, you know what? Phooey. I'm not buying it.
Well said.
I'm not buying it. Here's why I'm not buying it. A, Chris Paul could have opted out of his contract, signed with Houston, and a 4-year max deal. Right? Right. He could have made a whole lot more money, but instead, he opted into his deal, forced a trade. Houston had to give up some assets, but when you have to give up Patrick Beverly, Sam Decker, and Montrezl Harrell for the greatest point guard of all time, probably. Let me back up. A top 3 point guard of all time. Don't argue with me on that one.
Not right now.
Okay.
Wait, we have Magic. We have
him. Who are you gonna say, Jason Kidd?
I'll give it to you. I was thinking Isaiah.
False.
I'll give it to you.
All right. Second greatest point guard of all time. We're taking it. All right. He gave up the long. Nope. You've read the book of basketball.
Well, he's probably second. Yeah, you're probably right. I just don't like the no rings, but anyway, what you gonna do?
Hey, what? I'm not worried about it.
Top 3.
John Stockton never won a ring either. What are you talking
Isaiah
about?
won 2 though.
Okay.
The original Isaiah.
I know the original Isaiah. Yeah. All right. Long-term deal, gives it up. So this is what I've read out of it. A, he really wanted to play in Houston with James Harden and Mike D'Antoni, and in that organization, clearly because A, he took a pay cut to go play there. He went the trade route to help LA, but that was the best. That was the only way he was going to take the pay cut. Otherwise, he would have looked dumb because he's the one who made the CBA so that he could get more money.
Exactly.
He's forfeiting the long-term deal, and I think that's very important because when you look at an injury-prone player like Chris Paul, he's clearly betting on himself here. He could have locked himself up. He could have been like, you know what? I'm 32 years old. I'm like 6 foot, 6'1". My body is going to start falling apart here in this because this is a physical league.
Already is, yeah.
Low-key already is, like you said. He's kind of an injury risk. He's injury-prone. But he says, you know what? No, I want to play in Houston. I believe in myself. I know I'm not going to fall apart. I know this thing is going to work. I'm going to take less money. I'm going to go to Houston, and we're going to win. This is obviously what he's saying. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. But I think that speaks a lot about Chris Paul's willingness to change his game to a way that's more tailor-fit to play with James Harden, another ball-dominant guard, and Mike D'Antoni's offense. I think that shows that he trusts himself. He knows his body. If he knew that he was going to fall apart, that he wasn't going to make it... he wasn't going to make it too much longer before he would start deserving a pay cut. He would have locked himself up to a longer-term contract, and he probably would have stayed with LA to get the full max 5 years there, so he could get the extra year at the max. So this is why I believe in the Chris Paul project in Houston.
So my pushback, I don't disagree with you. I think they can play together and play well, but the one thing that I'm worried about, not really worried about, but concerned about, I would say.
So worried.
Last year's James Harden can't put up Chris Paul. I believe last year's point guard, D'Antoni James Harden, is different than James Harden before that. I think that
yes, they're very different.
2015, 2014, that James Harden, if he goes back to that 2-guard role, and if he can do that, which I think he can, then he'll be fine with CP3. But I just don't think last year's Harden can coexist on the floor with Chris Paul. And they won't be on the floor the whole time together. I understand that aspect of it. But it's more the adjustment for Harden than it is the two coexisting, to me at least.
Right. I think he's definitely going to have to adjust, but both of them have blatantly said, I don't want to have to play with the ball in my hands the whole game, which is why I want them on the team.
If he can do it, which he probably can, then I think it'll be fine.
Right. So I agree that there are some fit issues there that have to be worked out, but when you can get, a top 3 point guard of all time?
Absolutely.
You go for it.
12 player right now.
Yeah, you go for it.
I think it's definitely a calculated risk, and if you look at Houston, it's Daryl Morey's mindset. He's going to keep trying to make that move. He said it on the Bilson podcast.
Wow, you were so good at setting me up. You know what? You knew what I was about to say.
Yeah, what were you going to say?
It's time for Melo Talk. Ba, 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 ba.
I'm not the...
Every single episode of this show is going to have Melo Talk until Melo's on the Rockets, and I'm still going to have it.
Oh, this show. Okay. Did Duncan allow to do that?
Oh, yeah, I know. That's why this show has been created.
That's kind of why it exists.
Yeah, exactly. And you have your show, so you can nerd out about your little stickball stuff.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
All right. Let me start, and then you can go.
I'm on the fence about Melo, personally. I don't want to pretend like I'm really not
Okay, you start.
So you go ahead and give your arguments.
Okay, all right.
And then I'm going to push back on everything you said.
Argument number 1. If you can get the trade pushed through by simply sending out Ryan Anderson and maybe a future first rounder or two, which I'm not worried about. Hey, if we had to tank eventually, we can tank. But I don't think that's going to be I don't think that's something you have to worry about because of the Harden extension. If you can get Melo and lock him up, or not lock him up, but you can get him on your team for simply trading away Ryan Anderson, maybe some picks. Somehow you might have to work in a third team to get this all done. But either way, you're sending out Ryan Anderson, maybe some picks. You're getting Carmelo Anthony back. This guy is number 25 on the all-time scoring list as of right now. He's a beautiful offensive talent. He can shoot the three, he can shoot the mid-range, he can get to the hoop. Obviously, he's older. I'm not going to deny that. He's getting old. His skills are waning. His talents are falling down some. But that doesn't mean... But he can still shoot from outside where he doesn't have to draw the contact, get in the lane, all that stuff. This is what I'm getting at. He's far and away, he's a superior player to Ryan Anderson. Ryan Anderson is he's a good rotation player. I mean, he can start on probably 25 teams in this league, right? So
sure, yeah.
I mean, I think that's worth the risk, let alone right there, because you get a 40% free three-point shooter at the door. You get someone who shoots 40% from three and can also do so many other things in the offensive end that adds up to just being an overall net positive. Ryan Anderson's defense is so bad that Melo is going to be able to...
Melo's defense is equally bad, so it's going to be...
That's what I'm saying. Is Melo's defense is still bad, but it's not Ryan Anderson bad. I watched Ryan Anderson for a full season. And yeah, his offense is way better. Another thing that someone brought up on Twitter, if I knew who it was, I would shout them out, but I can't remember, so I apologize. All you listeners out there might be able to find it. Tee-hee. But Melo is going to have the third best guy on the floor guarding him on every possession. Because number one and number two are going to be devoted to Chris Paul and James Harden in some order.
That's a good point.
Right? That guy's going to be able to eat up the third best defender on most teams. Maybe not Golden State, maybe not even Cleveland. But like...
Cleveland's defense is not good.
Okay, true. I should have said Boston.
Yeah.
Or San Antonio. But the other 26 teams...
Guys, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he can just eat them up. I think there's a real... I don't think there's any downside to the trade that includes Ryan Anderson plus picks for Melo. Now, when you have to start giving up other assets, I'm already out the door. We're not giving up Eric Gordon or Clint Capella.
That's good.
But
that's where my pushback was going to mostly be.
Okay.
So, I mean, I understand. I like your point. You look at Golden State, and not to compare the two because Houston is inferior.
Obviously, yes.
But you look at why Golden State's so successful in the league, it's simply because who can guard those 3/4 guys?
No one.
No one really.
Well, San Antonio could until Zaza a cheap shot,
okay.
According to
right.
Skip Bayless, murdered Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah. So that would be definitely the upside of that trade. But like you said, you don't want to give up too much. You don't want to forfeit your future. I understand Anderson and picks sounds fine and dandy to me. If Melo gets bought out, perfect. There you go. But like you said, you don't want to forfeit the future. You don't want to make your team any worse. But really, you get those three guys, and it looks pretty good going forward.
Daryl Morey admitted, you're not going to win against Golden State. You're going to get lucky against Golden State.
Yeah.
And by adding players that have high variance and high upside, yes, I think by adding Melo, I think you lower your floor for the team.
But you
infinitely raise the ceiling, like you just said. Yeah. I think it's a worthwhile bet. I think, hey, if the Carmelo experiment doesn't work out, he can opt out next year, and he can go to Cleveland. He can play with LeBron James or LA. But whatever. So I think it's a worthwhile bet. I mean, what's 1 year?
The one thing that I think this is Bill Simmons mentioned this. This is probably where I got the inspiration of the idea. Are we sure D'Antoni plus Harden plus Melo plus Chris Paul is going to work chemistry-wise?
No, but what else are you going to do? Just let the Warriors beat you in 4?
It's probably your best chance, yeah, but there are plenty of factors that would worry me if that were to take place. But I'm probably with you that if you can get that deal, you make it. That's
exactly. I think older, more seasoned veteran players that James Harden, Chris Paul, and Melo now are, I think it's something that you're like, hey, put in perspective, they've matured, most likely. They're more willing to work with each other, share the ball, whatever. And, I mean, honestly, I think it's just something you have to go for. Even if it crashes and burns, like, you know what? Crash and burn, get Melo out of here. We got Harden for another 5 years, till 2023. My goodness. But, yeah, that's just my own perspective on it. That's actually all I have for this show today. Because we're already at 30 minutes, and I wanted to keep it around 25. So, thank you for listening, if you listened. I don't know if anyone listened, and that's okay, right? Because we're just getting...
you are just kind of tell the people, however many of them are listening, what you're looking at as far as this podcast, what different topics you'll cover and such.
Yeah. So, this podcast is going to be strictly whatever I want to talk about. So, it's going to be NBA 99.999 repeating percent of the time. But I'm going to primarily focus on the Houston Rockets aspect of the league because they are my favorite team. I'm going to go through whatever topics of the week kind of just interest me. And I'm going to try and get up a show at least once a week. It might even be twice a week. It really just depends on my own time and what kind of news is spreading throughout the league. And I'm just really excited to do this. And sometimes I might have an hour-long episode. Sometimes it might be 15 minutes. It's just me giving my thoughts on the league, giving my thoughts on the Houston Rockets, and really my thoughts on anything, I guess. But I'm just excited to bring this show. I'm excited for you to bring lukewarm takes. I know you just had a very productive episode with our coworker Nick.
That's his name.
9 Wallstra.
Oh, yeah. Do you think we should share the inspiration for New York Needs?
I don't even remember how I came across.
Well, it's not really complicated.
You know what? We should save this for down to the main.
We probably should. We should wait till next time. It's not very confusing, but we'll save it.
Yeah. It'll be a fun surprise. Leave you hanging for next week.
All 3 of you or whatever.
Yeah. But, this has been Daved by the Bell. And until next time, and until we find a better name for the show, this is Daved by the Bell. This is Devin Dave DeBoer. That's Luke. And we are going to see you next week. Thanks for listening.